Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Cash That. This is your host, Joe Dellera, and I've got a really special guest today. This is the NBA Finals preview. You guys know, we've gone over so many different series with Brandon, but obviously NBA Finals, there's a lot of other content out there with both of us on it, but we had to do it for Cash That. Brandon, how are you this Wednesday morning-ish for me, for you? How are you doing so far?
Still Tuesday night for me for 16 more minutes here in Chicagoland. I'm doing good. You know, the finals aren't quite here yet. We got to actually get the tip off, but we've done all the work now, right? Like we've done all the prep that there is to do. We've seen all the 7 trillion series prop markets. There will be more. There'll be more.
There's always more.
While we're recording, there will be more. But no, it feels good. Feels like we got to June. We're at the finals. It's a fun series. And yeah, it's fun to be back on, fun to talk finals. We got a lot of fun stuff, lots of good bets, some fun bets, That's the drill. It's the dream.
Yeah, so to give everybody a little bit of a roadmap of what we're looking for during this episode. So Brandon and I just recorded a couple different things for action. So some of this is going to be like a little redundant. We are releasing at the same time. However, if you are going to listen to one, you should listen to this one first because we're going to give you the books. So because I'm allowed to do that right now. So we're going to do that. So we're not going to go through everything because we did record this episode with Jim. We did a props episode. So I'm sure we'll touch on some of that, but I do want to talk about, series best bets from a games perspective, some looks at game one, some stuff from player prop markets, series leaders, some of the per game types of bets, and like our favorite, like the series player prop specials. We love those. But I also want to talk some X's and O's about like, what do we think we're going to see? What are we not going to see? What do we think could maybe be an X factor here? And how do you potentially bet into those types of edges? Because I think that's one of the things about the playoffs that we tend to be able to see. It's not entirely just, oh, this is regular season hoops. This is what this team does. This is what this team allows. Like they're just going to let you do it. In the playoffs, yeah, you might get that a little bit, but teams are going to be fighting their damnedest to do anything they can to like these little micro edges because a possession or two could be the difference in the games. Brandon, when you look at this series at the top, I think that we both are pretty aligned on who is going to win this series. I want it to be a long series because I want more hoop. But at the same time, I really don't think this is going to be a long series. And my best bet is I'm on OKC minus 2.5 games, minus 125 at BetMGM. What do you like here? And then we'll talk about the why.
Yeah, similarly to you, I'm basically looking at Thunder in a short series, but I'm always looking to cut out some of my outs and try to get it a better price. Generally speaking, if I'm picking a really narrow outcome, which I'm about to give you, part of that is not necessarily overconfidence. It's actually underconfidence. Like I think it's Thunder. I think it's Thunder in 5. Could be 4. Could be 6. I don't think it gets to 7. But you can't bet Thunder in 4, 5, and 6. Like that's just everything. You have no outs left. So here's what I'm going to do. I like the Thunder to win in 5. So I'm basically taking your bet. But I'm going to sacrifice the sweep. And I like Thunder a ton at home. So I'm going to bet 2 exact outcomes. Thunder in 5 where they lose game 3 in Indiana. Thunder in 5 where they lose game 4 in Indiana. First one of those is around plus 700 at FanDuel and Caesars. The second one is around plus 900. So you basically get both of those together. And I'm sacrificing a few other outs there, but we're basically betting the same thing. Mine's a better price because I'm giving up some of the other outs. You might just cash with a sweep, and then I'll be like, man, I had the right read, but I didn't go hard enough.
Yeah, like my thing is I'm looking at this and I really struggle to see like where Indy is going to find their edge, or so to speak, because I think Oklahoma City kind of shuts the water off on all the things that they've really taken advantage of throughout the postseason. Milwaukee struggled a bit in terms of defending the perimeter. They struggle with turnovers. They struggle with depth, right? So Milwaukee, I think we all had agreed Indiana outclassed them. Milwaukee was, Dame obviously was hurt, comes back, gets hurt again. They were really running on fumes. Cleveland also had a number of different injuries, but Indiana was able to kind of get out there, push the pace, and they were just beat. They were exhausted, Cleveland was. And then you look at the Knicks series, and they were able to just continually exploit a particular matchup. They were able to continually hound these weak points in the defensive scheme. And then also, New York didn't really capitalize on some of the meat that was left on the bone from Indiana defensively. You didn't really see enough cat. Some of the minutes rotations were a little odd. But against Oklahoma City, I don't really think there is a weak point. And what Indiana does, Indiana is one of the best transition offenses in the league. Oklahoma City is the best defense period, especially in transition. So do you think, let's put it this way, what do you think is the biggest weakness or thing that you could exploit out of both Indiana and Oklahoma City?
Yeah, so I love the 4-factor stuff and kind of start big picture. So at first glance, I'm like, you know what? Indiana is a pretty interesting foil for the Thunder, because with the Thunder, you have to start with turnovers. The Pacers are a great turnovers team. Pacers do not turn it over. They're the 4th fewest turnovers in the NBA. So, okay, that's huge.
Yeah.
That's huge against anybody. But against the Thunder, this nasty defensive team that's like chopping down on your arms in every play, trying to get to strip the ball and get out and get some free points. That's a big part of why OKC's offense is rated so well, is because they're getting so much free stuff. And the Thunder have the fewest turnovers offensively. Well, the Pacers, we saw firsthand, they have really increased their defensive turnovers forced since January 1. They jumped from 1st to 7th in that metric. So I think typically that's an area where, okay, they could close the gap here. They could not give the ball away as much as OKC has gotten it against Minnesota and Denver, 2 relatively turnover-heavy teams. They can close that gap. Maybe they'll even force a few turnovers, probably not a ton because OKC is good. But by like net rating and 4 factors, turnover margin is worth about half of OKC's historically good net rating. So, okay, it's not going to go away. The Thunder are still going to be good. But can you cut it in half? Could you take away 3-4 points of that net rating? Well, the gap is a lot smaller now. All right, how about threes? Indiana's shooting over 40% on threes for the entire playoffs so far. The Thunder kind of want you to take threes.
Yeah.
They're going to give you the 3. They're going to hope to choose which guys get them. But the Pacers are more egalitarian offense. The Pacers guys, Nembhard and Nesmith are the dudes actually hitting the threes for them, like almost 50%. So there's a lot of things to say, okay, some of the potential holes in Oklahoma City, if there is anything, either their advantages can be neutered a little bit or they can close the gap. I think all of that is true. The problem is that it's also true the other direction for a lot of the reasons that you said. A lot of the stuff that Halliburton does to give Indiana its identity and make them be so good at what they are, pushing the pace, getting quick looks before the defense is set. You're not doing that against Oklahoma City. You're not doing it. This is the best transition defense in the league, is the best fast break defense in the league. They don't turn it over. They don't give you the easy stuff. They don't give you the look ahead. So that's a lot of easy buttons taken away. They're also the league's #1 2-point defense. Indiana prefers 2-pointers. Indiana's floor is with 2-pointers and easy stuff, getting into the lane, getting back cuts, getting the Halliburton and Nembhard passing. Oklahoma City is good at taking that stuff away too. They allowed the fewest 2s and the lowest 2-point percentage. 51% is a crazy low number for 2-point percentage. That's Chet, that's iHeart, that's everybody just not giving you good looks and packing the paint and forcing those threes. So, okay, maybe Indiana gets the shot variance. The problem is they don't even really get a huge volume of threes. So maybe they get like 40 threes up. Even if they hit half of them, I still think that's a winnable game for Oklahoma City if some of the other Thunder stuff goes that way. And then the other problem too is, like Matt Moore and I talked about this on our series preview. I think the Thunder is clearly the best unit in the game, in the series. I think the Thunder defense #1. I think Pacers defense is very clearly the worst unit of the 4. Yeah. And the problem to me is in this matchup, the way that the Thunder are going to be able to take things away from the Pacers, I think the Thunder offense is second best unit ahead of the Pacers offense. And that's frankly what the season-long metrics say too. And guess what? If you have the top 2 units versus the bottom 2 units, you might get a short series.
Yeah, I really think that this is going to be very difficult for Indiana to just get the ball rolling, because even, you mentioned maybe they can up the 3-point volume. Problem is that's taking you completely out of everything that you've done all season to be successful. So I think that maybe that just will work one game because they make their threes and somebody gets hot. that's kind of what the situation was. But even, like against some of these other teams throughout the course of the postseason, throughout the course of the season, regular season too, Indiana just isn't a team that's going to say like, wow, we're just going to jack up a bunch of threes.
Yeah.
That's not really their style of ball. So it does make this a little bit of a lower variance series. And it's almost the exact opposite scenario of why I had felt that New York could beat Boston and some of the issues with Boston. Like when you take that many threes, it opens yourself up to more variance. I think that, Indiana and Oklahoma City, neither team takes a particularly large amount of threes, but it also, so it kind of keeps maybe the floor a little bit more stable, but at the same time, then you don't have ceiling in the same type of way. So there isn't the ability to always catch up without throwing yourself out of what you're normally used to doing on offense. So the other thing is we've seen now and this is particularly tough for you, I know, because you're such a Lou Dort truther, but Dort has actually been really successful on Tyrese Halliburton. Not only is it that Halliburton has kind of been stifled, Halliburton's averaging like 11 points and 5.5 assists against the Thunder this season, but the ball just doesn't even really get to his hands. Dort has done a very good job of denying the ball, forcing the ball out early, and against any team or like really any player that's been defending him, Halliburton has the lowest usage against Lou Dort in the NBA. So if you take the ball out of Halliburton's hands, you're immediately weakening the Pacers' offense is the way that I have to look at it. And I know that leads into one of our favorite bets that we've talked about kind of extensively, but Halliburton under 9.5 assists per game during the finals. Very juicy, minus 150 out there on MGM. I mean, he's, like I said, he's averaging 5.5 against the Thunder this season. I don't think that they are going to be able to shake him loose too much. But what are your thoughts about, like some of the regular season transfer over into this type of playoff context?
Yeah, I mean, in the regular season, I think what we saw a lot of is we saw Oklahoma City switching because they did not want to get caught in rotation. They did not want to get Halliburton just slicing them up defensively with his passing, because I think that Oklahoma City is perfectly content with really almost any of their defenders, other than maybe, guys like Isaiah Joe or Aaron Wiggins off the bench. Other than that, even the big men, they're switching Isaiah Hartenstein onto him in the regular season, saying, go ahead, Halliburton. You are not the explosive, get to the rim, make us pay sort of guy that that a John Morant or someone else like that potentially could be. That's not Halliburton's game. And they have so much defensive IQ and so many long limbs and hands and everything that they're going to be fine recovering that. And they're saying, you can't do it that way. We're not giving that to you to get those assists and get those possessions downhill. You mentioned the 5.5 assists a game, only 11.5 potentials a game against Oklahoma City. Down by over 4 a game, down by 10 assist points created per game, down 40% in assists per game, just down across the board. And in the playoffs so far, that's not unusual for Oklahoma City. That's what this defense does. Nikola Jokic, 11 points created, lower than his season average against this defense. The best player in the world, 11 points lower. John Morant was 10 lower. It was 5 lower. He's not creating quite as many because his assists aren't as high usually. So even that is a pretty big drop off. So I think OKC, I don't even know that I think switching with this defense is the best way to defend him. Like, you mentioned it, Dort is able to completely just zap his usage. You and I love Tyrese Halliburton. We've long been the Halliburton guys. A thing about Halliburton, for better and for worse, is he's going to take what is available to him. And we've seen it. We saw it in the Knicks series. We saw him have this one of the greatest games, turnover free, 32, 12, and 50, and just an incredible game.
Yeah.
And then the very next game, he's got 8 points and 3 assists, and is virtually invisible. Is a less visible than Andrew Nembhard on a typical night, sort of night, where he's just one of the guys on the court. That's that doesn't mean he was terrible that game necessarily. It might mean that he's deferring. It might mean that he's letting the 4 and 3s get downhill. That's what we like about Halliburton. If he's not willing to be assertive and hunt, Oklahoma City is not going to let him just backdoor his way into doing some good stuff in the series. And so maybe it's the switching thing. We'll probably get into it. I don't think it'll be Einhard. I think it'll be Chet, which gets even worse for him. Yeah. If it's not that, Okay, it's just Dort blanketing him. Oh, Dort's in foul trouble or Dort's on the bench? Cool. How do you feel about Case and Wallace? How about Alex Caruso? How about J-Dub switched on to you? How are you going to
Yeah.
enjoy it? Like, there are no easy options for him. And, they have competence elsewhere. Siakam is a nice handler for his position. He can do a little creation. We like what Nembhard can do as like the fifth guy on the team. There are other things here, but all the other stuff is like the secondary down team effect of Halliburton. And if you kind of turn off the faucet, then all the trickle down stuff is just drops of water compared to like the ocean of OKC coming at you. I don't know if that whole analogy worked there, but you got the idea.
No, because I mean, I think New York did find a little bit of success against Halliburton by defending him just further and further and further and further up the court.
Yeah.
And Indiana found a lot of success against New York by that constant ball pressure, right? I guess that's maybe the weak spot for Oklahoma City is, do they have enough ball handling? Like, if Indiana is going to do that, if they are going to defend Shay the entire length of the floor, do they have enough facilitating outside of him to run their offense? I think they do, just especially based on the size, because I think what Indiana was finding, like where they were finding the success, is Brunson's not like the biggest dude. So when you throw a lot, not only like the volume of bodies, but also a lot of them were bigger than him, it's like that does make it a little bit more difficult to shake loose, and kind of find some success getting the ball in or whatever. Whereas with Oklahoma City, I think it's a little bit different. I think the size of the players and like the length and athleticism is going to matter, I think, overall a little bit more. But what I was kind of getting at was Oklahoma City has the bodies to do that to Tyrese Halliburton all game, every game. And he's actually not like the biggest dude either. He's pretty slender, and I don't know how he's necessarily going to hold up in that type of matchup. So I've listened to some interviews with his trainer, and they talk about, you need to be assertive, you need to score, and like you see those flashes every so often. But a lot of people have talked about Indiana being a team that when you see them for the first time in like the playoffs, you're like, boy, like that offense is humming, right? And they found success or relative success in game ones. Do you think that Oklahoma City is going to have that same issue? Because I would think it's the opposite kind of thing, where I think Oklahoma City is going to be the team that Indiana sees and goes, oh, fuck, we are here.
Yeah, I'm with you. That's what I was going to say as you were leading up to it. I was like, I think this might go the other direction. Oklahoma City, like, they see what the Indiana thing is pushing pace and getting the early offense. Oklahoma City sees that in practice every day. That Oklahoma City is like doing a better version of that with their own players on the team and is prepared for that. I don't think that's going to be a shock to the system. It's going to be a different thing. Denver played slower. Minnesota played slower. They got some Memphis, but that was a while ago and not particularly competitive. But I don't think that the pace thing is going to surprise them. They've had a whole week to prepare for this and had to have assumed it was going to be Indiana as they were preparing. And I don't think it's going to be a shock to the system. I do think, comparatively to Jalen Brunson and Cat and, Miami Heat in the first round. Wait, no, that's the Cavs. The Bucks guys, Gary Trent Jr., Dame Lillard for the 3 seconds we got to see him, like getting those options. And all of a sudden now you got Dort and Kaysen and Caruso and quite frankly Shay and J-Dub and Chet at the rim. Cleveland's defense, I know they have the defensive player of the year. That was not a great defense this season. That was like a good defense that did not play that well in that series. This is an entirely different animal. And I think, I agree with you that I think to feel the pressure that Oklahoma City is going to bring, like even the turnovers thing, I don't think Indiana is going to have a terrible turnover series. Wouldn't shock me to see them have a terrible game one of turnovers, right?
Yeah.
Like just those hands coming down from every direction on the ball, the pressure. Like I think both of us see potential blowout in game one. And that's the problem too with OKC is every game is a potential blowout because if the script starts to go their direction, it landslides. And, they're winning a third of their games by 20 points, a quarter of their games by 25 points. So I think, too, as you're thinking about betting the series, you're going to see it, a -9. It could even get to a -10 if we're right about the series. If we get to like a game 5 back at home, you shouldn't be afraid to lay the points on this team if you like them. I think almost 80% of their wins are by double digits. In fact, if you see the double digit line and you're thinking about laying it, double down and play some alts also, because if they cover the line and now it's 12, 15, 18, it can get away in a hurry. And what does Indiana really care at that point? They're probably going to rest and try again the next games. I think game one, if you and I are right on kind of how we're seeing the series, does set up for that sort of spot against Indiana.
Yeah, because I was looking at you as you were kind of talking. I was looking at this, and one of my favorite bets that I've been playing is to record 100 points in the first 3 quarters, and Oklahoma City's plus 440 on that line. I don't think I kind of wonder, can they do that in this spot against Indiana, whose defense has been, admittedly, has been better, but I don't know if they're going to necessarily be ready for like this pace, this moment, whatever the situation is. So I don't mind the plus 440 there either, as well as maybe looking at some of these win bands or something like that. Because this is going to be, I think it's going to be a faster paced series, given that these two teams outside of the Memphis Grizzlies play at the second and third fastest pace in the playoffs. And that means that they've also been dragged down by some other slower teams, like New York plays relatively slow. Minnesota doesn't play particularly fast. Denver definitely doesn't play fast. So, and there were 7 games of that series. So we are seeing, I think 2 of the faster paced teams in the league facing off against each other.
Yeah.
But
when in a fast pace too also means more possessions, and more possessions means more chances for the better team to be better.
Yeah.
So that's it's been great for Indiana so far because they've been playing like the better team. So it helps them. But now extra possessions is extra chances for, OKC. If OKC's net rating is like plus 11, 12, 13, even if Indiana is very good as like a plus 6 sort of team, every 100 possessions, you're giving up 7 points. Okay, well, you don't want to have, a 100 possession game rather than a 75 possession game. Then that's like an extra 3-4 point swing just on possessions alone. We talk about the math all the time. Possessions are math also. That's why Oklahoma City is winning, is turnover possessions. Well, pace is creating possessions for them too.
Yeah, I think that Oklahoma City just has more outs in order to get there. And to tie into outs, a lot of it has been when you compare these two teams, right? Everybody says that both of these teams, when you look at them, they're really good teams. There is a lot of depth between both teams. You see the bench units coming out. You see the optionality that the coaches have to kind of draw on in particular matchups. I think that Indiana is going to be the team that has to kind of start shrinking that bench first. I don't think that guys like McConnell are going to be playable. I struggle to see, some of these other matchups. Like, I don't know if Thomas Bryant is going to be super playable here, especially if Oklahoma City decides, hey, like, we want to start going smaller. And I think they're also dealing with another injury too. So when you look at the way the rotations might tighten, how does that kind of change and shape the thought process for betting not only on player props for individual games, but I think some of these series player props that we like to bet on as well?
Yeah, I think one thing that you and I have agreed on, and Jim as well, as we talked about this, is I think we all think that the series, it goes only one direction, and that would be smaller as the series goes along. So frankly, I think the books also think that and are pricing it in a little bit already. Isaiah Hartenstein is the best rebounder on either team, but he needs enough minutes to actually get the rebounds. I think that the minutes are going to slowly slide, and maybe not necessarily slowly either. He already is not starting the second half of some of these games. Maybe we get to that card quickly. It's interesting because I don't really think Indiana wants to see Hartenstein out there. I think he can dominate on the glass. That's a weak spot for the Pacers. But I don't really know that the Thunder really want to see Hartenstein out there either, because I think Chet is a real X factor for this series, both directions. Now you're both very high on him in this matchup, where defensively, if he's the guy instead of Hartenstein, switching on to Shay, that is switching on to Halliburton is a much more difficult matchup for Hallie. But on the other side, now if Hartenstein is off the court, now it's Chet at center, but Chet is not staying in the paint all the time. Chet's spacing out to the edge. Miles Turner's chasing you out to the edge. Now that paint is just wide open. And to me, the weak spot I said earlier is Pacers defense. Well, the weak spot gets even weaker when their one shot blocker is not in the paint to do the thing. Shay's just going to do anything he wants at that point. Like, he might do it anyway, but if Turner is out in the perimeter defending, or if he's pulled away for, in a pick, or if he's just on the bench with fouls, or, can't play all 48, there's nobody else there to protect the rim for the team. Pacers 2-point defense has not improved and not been good this season. And we talked about floor. that's the floor that will be consistent there. So, okay, what does that all mean as far as we go for props? Well, I heart minutes fade means less rebounds for him in all likelihood, some amount less. Miles Turner is not going to be a great rebounder, so being able to fade that, especially more if it's Chet on the court, because last year, Chet did not play the 2 matchups this year. Turner averaged 8 rebounds a game, but facing Hartenstein. Last year, Chet did play, and Turner had 3 rebounds in both of the games with Chet on the court, because again, he's pulled out away from the court, which is also where he plays offensively, is trying to space them away from the court. So I think fading Turner rebounds, fading Hartenstein rebounds means that the rebound market opens up a lot and maybe looks a little different than the way things are priced out. You and I both like some of the longer shots there. Assists, we talked about the Halliburton assists already. That's my favorite bet of the entire series. And any way to bet it, series bet, series leader, whatever, is the Halliburton under 9.5. But if we're right about it, that also means that the series assist leader props are completely mispriced.
Mm-hmm.
If Halliburton's not going to be a huge leader in the market as he's being priced at, then there's some serious value on the long shots there. Hey, and Nembhard are the guys that you, me, and Jim all just were like, smash bet everything about it. Plus 500 for Shay at DraftKings. I don't even know what is the best current line for Nembhard. You and I bet 150 to 1 at Bet Rivers. What do you have right now?
I think it still is at Rivers at 150 to 1.
Yeah.
Then I think I saw the next best is 75 to 1 at 365. Honestly, for most people, if you're betting this, you're going to have to spread this around. Like, to be honest with you, if you want to get enough action down on it. But like, we've seen it as low as 18 to 1. So I think there is some meat on the bone. As long as I think I would want at least 25 to 1 to bet it. I don't think I'd be.
I'm not running to bet an 18 or 20 to 1, in part because you might be able to just wait a game and then try to, like, even if Halliburton goes way under in game 1, they may not necessarily adjust Nembhard up, because it might just be that the Thunder blew them out and nobody really got the assist in game 1. Like, it's easy to see a world where like Shay has 8-9 assists in game 1 and a big Thunder win. Halliburton has 5 or 6, which frankly I think is about where we project him for the most part in the series. Nembhard maybe gets 4 or 5 of his own. All right, well, that line is going to get longer now because Shay is the clear leader at that point. Shay and Halliburton flip a little bit, but Nembhard, if you don't have the long number available now, don't rush to grab it. You'll probably get a chance later on. But yeah, to me, rebounds and assists are the two that I see the most there. Threes, I don't have a strong angle on threes. I do think I want a pacer for threes, so I'm watching it. I think because of the variance that you talked about, I mentioned this to Matt Moore. I wish I knew the stat. I haven't done the work on it. I wonder how often the threes leader comes from the losing team in a series. Like, is in a modern era, that feels like not a great bet, but I'm assuming the Pacers are going to crank the variance a little bit. So I think I want some shots on a few darts of Pacers players there, maybe.
Yeah, like a Nesmith kind of makes sense, but the number isn't. I don't know if the number is really there. Siakam, you wondered, is he going to take enough? But like a Nembhard definitely gets him up. Honestly, Mathurin could get them up too.
Yeah.
If he gets the minutes.
I played Mathurin last round. Didn't go hot for me, but it's possible.
That's the thing though. Like, but he did finish the series pretty strong for Indiana. Yeah. So the thing is with Mathurin, like, and then we'll get back into what we're talking about here. But Mathurin, like, he just plays sometimes so out of control. And there were a couple plays even in the New York series where he just got bailed out because the Knicks just couldn't stop fouling anybody, or the refs couldn't stop calling fouls. Let's put it that way. So, but he got bailed out just because he was like flapping around, and that's not going to play against the Thunder.
I mean, it's probably not, except the Thunder do foul a lot.
They do.
So it might. He's the one guy that can draw some fouls. And like, quite frankly, again, Carlisle knows his team far better than either one of us can guess. I kind of think they need some high-end variance from Ben Mathurin. Like, as an underdog role, I wouldn't mind seeing a lot more of him. Like, I know Jim is very high on Nesmith. Nesmith is the corner threes guy. Oklahoma City gives up more corner threes than anyone. I get the Nesmith angle on threes. I get his defensive upside. I don't think he's stopping Shay anyway. I don't really necessarily know if I mind if Nesmith's ankle bothers him enough that like they have to play some more of the bench guys. I don't want to see what's his name? Shepard, the younger guy. I don't want to see him out there this series. I need upside. I need some scoring. I need some creation. I don't know what Mathurin's going to give, but like if I'm the Pacers, I got to find out. Like I need to find some offense from somewhere. And, you know, like to me, that's like the Jamal Crawford, the J.R. Smith sort of guy. Like I need some volatility because I just kind of need some luck to go my direction. So to me with threes, the way I want to play the market mostly is hope somebody gets like 4 or 5 in game one and then just bet not that person. Like right now it's hard to bet the market because we don't really know who it's going to be. And neither do the books. So there's not a clear favorite. So then all the long shots aren't that long either, which sucks because we love our long shots. But like, let somebody take a lead and all these dudes that are like 10-1 right now drop down to like 25-1. And now we get some bettable, like, all right, Neesmith for 4 in game one. And now he drops down to like a 20-1 bet. All right, I can dig that. Like I'll play that after one game. A little less excitedly because you and I think we might only get 4 or 5 games. But if we only get 4 or 5, threes leader might be like 10 to 12 threes over the entire series.
Especially with these two teams. Like neither team is a team that's particularly jacking up threes. So definitely some opportunity for like a rando to basically get it.
Right. Like points leader is cooked and not even a thing to talk about because it's Shay. The other markets, I think we basically think in different words. I think these will be close. I think that's what we think. Yeah. I think Halliburton's not the heavy leader in assists, so we think that one could be close between the 3 guys. I think rebound, there's not a clear big leader. Could end up being Chet, but if it's not, that could, like, we're going to get a plurality. And if it's a close one and it's 4 or 5 games, that is a huge opportunity for long shots and variance in a short series for one of these long shot names to come through.
Yeah. So I think that definitely makes a lot of sense. And I think it also, you know, when we're talking about some of these rotations, we're talking about how we think that the series might trend small. I think that this helps some of our guys in terms of the rebounding department because like Hartenstein's floor is really high. Still probably gets 6 in every game. That's 5-1 on MGM. He's got a floor of 5 really throughout the entire postseason. So, you know, we're asking for one more. It's still in line he's hitting. And this is a bad rebounding team in the Indiana Pacers. Yeah. Looking at some of the other spots, though, like my favorite bet from a rebounding perspective, I love Shay over 5.5 rebounds per game. I think that it's a great opportunity for him. He's kind of crushed the number against the Pacers as it is this season. And I think that, you know, he could see a little bit more minutes as a bigger player. And also, like, we have seen him grab some of these rebounds, start transition, start getting out and running. I think the over 5.5 is a little bit too light. And I know it's an angle for you to kind of fade somebody else on the Pacers as well.
Yeah, I love the over 5.5. Part of the reason I'm only going to play that for like a unit is because I believe DraftKings has a head-to-head up on Shay versus Turner for rebounds per game. I love that one. I think I love that because I don't even necessarily need to go over 5.5 to hit that one. I think Turner ends up maybe in the 4 to 5 range, well below that number, which is not available for us to play. But I have Shay like 6 to 8 rebounds. The average 8 per game the last 2 years against Indiana. You made the case already for that. Well, Miles Turner either is battling Isaiah Hartenstein, a far superior rebounder, and that's a problem. Or if we're right, Hartenstein is off the court, and now Turner is pulled out away from the basket, out with Chet, not getting those rebounds. He's not really going to get offensive rebounds because they want him stretching the court. Just not a lot of great rebounding opportunities. Again, last year against Chet, when Chet played, Turner only had 3 rebounds each one of those games. Shay head-to-head against Turner, it's basically even odds. I don't know what I'd make that line. I think I'd make it like minus 200 or something for Shay, like a very clear favorite there. So I'll kind of split my base bet between those two. I like the over 5.5. I like the head-to-head versus Turner. And then just rebounds leader for the series. That one's bounced around a little bit. I still honestly think it's worth the price at like the 10 to 12 where it's at a lot of books. I know there's at least an 18-1. I've seen a 22-1. So that's my favorite rebounds leader bet. Yeah. A little bit less so. I do like Siakam here as well. Kind of similarly, I don't think Siakam is a great rebounder personally, but somebody's got to get rebounds in this series. And if it's not Hartenstein and it's not Turner, we're running out of options. And Siakam maybe ends up playing a lot of center in the series and is just the biggest guy out there and has to get some rebounds. Last 2 years against OKC, he's had a 9, a 10, and 11 on rebounding, which is pretty high for Siakam. But if we get numbers in that range, he's in range also. So over 5.5 rebounds for him. I don't love that one as much as Shay, just because I don't feel as confident in his actual rebounding prowess. But I think 7-1 for rebounds leader is also a good play for him. And I'm going to play probably a unit split between Shay and Siakam just to kind of get a few bites at the apple of, okay, this market feels open. Who are the dudes that are not the big bulking centers that might get them? I think Shay and Siakam make the most sense to me. I'm curious, you're more on J-Dub here. I think you're on Shay and J-Dub. We talked about this on the last pod. J-Dub didn't rebound against this team. Like, I don't know what's happening, if it's just random or what, but talk to me about that.
It seemed a little random. Like, I couldn't totally figure it out. I think in part it was because it might have been the Chet part of it, where Chet's not playing, so then you're getting Hartenstein minutes, and that kind of skews it a little bit more.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But to me, I think that we can see a lot of minutes with J-Dub at the 5. Also, when the numbers initially popped, they were way long. Like, J-Dub was 25-1 and Shay was 40-1. So I didn't even get, like, I got a little bit down on them personally, but I didn't even get a chance to get it out because they just pulled the market entirely. And then I kind of rebet it again a little bit. But I still think that there's some, I think at the current numbers, I would prefer just Shay. I don't need the J-Dub position, but it was more just, I was looking at it and I was like, this seems long for both of them based on where I was seeing it elsewhere in the market. So I think DraftKings still has the best number for both of them. So I don't mind that really at all either.
What, you and I have similar but slightly different positions on rebounding, but we have like a similar angle on what we're playing. What would you have to see out of game 1 to make you rethink and either like, oh, shoot, our angle is cooked, or let me try a different angle here?
So there's two things, and one is one that I want to talk about next anyway. One is that Hartenstein just crushes. Absolutely crushes. And like, honestly, if he does, it's just over. Like he's the one guy I think on both teams that has like 16, 18, 20 type of rebounding potential. Chet, what do you think Chet's ceiling is? Like 12?
Yeah, I was gonna say 12 or 13, maybe.
Yeah, like it doesn't, and that seems to be, I feel like that would be like a really good game for him, rebounding
it's a very high
wise.
ceiling. Like, they have that bet available for any game, and I want no part of it.
Yeah, like it feels a little farther out. Like, I'd rather bet that for a Hartenstein, but at the same time, I'm not super interested in it because I think that the series goes small, and I think that I could just maybe throw a dart on a random game where I'm like, I could see this happening and go that way. The other thing, you'll love this conversation. So obviously, Carlisle was the coach of the Mavericks when the Mavericks beat the Miami Heat. And one of the things that Carlisle did that really frustrated like a younger LeBron who didn't have the same type of bag, didn't have the same type of shot profile was, and also the team around him was very different than, actually, maybe it's not as different as like when you actually break it down, but there was not the greatest spacing. Let's put it that way. Yeah. Right. And Carlisle ran a zone, and the zone frustrated the hell out of LeBron. LeBron struggled really the entire series to get anything going. Do you think Carlisle can run a zone to frustrate SGA? Because Oklahoma City does not really have the same type of spacing. They don't have a ton of guys that shoot threes, like we've kind of talked about. They have some guys that shoot threes, but not like, they're not like a Warriors team that, everybody's shooting threes. That's the MO. Or a Celtics team where everybody's trying to shoot threes. Do you think a zone could be employed here? And what would the pivot points be of a zone defense that's thrown against Shay?
Yeah, the zone is interesting because I'm sure Jim Turvey will listen to this pod. I think the zone would be music to Jim's ears as our Action Network Pacers backer. He's the one guy out on the limb. If he could win a Pacers bet specifically because the Thunder are proven frauds when their others don't hit their threes, he's just gonna like retire forever with the best take he's ever given out. Like just the perfect Jim Turvey outcome. But I think that is the thing, is if you go zone, we saw that it was that Denver that kind of pulled out the zone already. And Oklahoma City, their offense suddenly couldn't get going because Shay didn't find the room quite as easily. And then the threes weren't falling. And that was it. Now, I think a problem is that Hartenstein had to stay on the court because Jokic was on the court.
Yeah.
But there's no Jokic in the series. So you can take Hartenstein off. And now like that's part of the whole point, is why I think Chet is so important, because you can't just have no center probably against most teams, but you probably can against this particular team. And you definitely can when Chet is one of your options to use as your quote no center.
Yeah.
So I think that does, like, Chet can be the zone buster in alone in a way that Hartenstein being part of the Jokic defense was not an option against Denver in the zone. But guys still got to hit some threes, and maybe the answer then is on a threes leader margin. And probably we don't necessarily see this in game one. Maybe, I don't even know if books will list them. Maybe that's an Isaiah Joe zone buster, or
Yeah.
maybe it's an Aaron Wiggins. Like, I do think Oklahoma City can get away with playing at least one of those guys a little bit more often. They're really the only two guys that like a Halliburton can target, but Halliburton's not really a targeting necessarily sort of dude, and I don't know
Yeah.
that Oklahoma City is going to give him that too often.
Yeah.
So maybe that's possibly like the angle, is if the zone comes, even like within a game, if you're a live prop better, maybe you bet like threes overs on some of the OKC guys. If you trust him, Dort's going to get looks. Like, Dort's going to play
He's gonna
because of what
shoot.
you said about playing Halliburton. He's going to get open shots. Indiana is going to be perfectly fine losing the finals because Dort made threes.
Yeah.
They will live with that. So maybe that's Dort threes leader. Maybe that's the Dort escalator on home games, especially. We know how much better he is shooting threes at home than road. So maybe that's like 4 3-pointers, 3 or 4 or 5 for Dort in one of the games. Maybe it's a Joe or a Wiggins or somebody like that. I think it's got to be threes. And you're right. I think that, it's intriguing enough that it's got to be a card that Carlisle plays at one point. I just don't know if, without Hartenstein and Jokic mucking up the paint and the inside, if it's quite as tough for Shay to just be like, okay, you don't really have a perimeter defender I can't just get right past anyway. And now I'm in the paint. What are you going to do about it? Nobody's here. And I can just, like, the zone defense might just be Shay scoring on 3 dudes anyway.
Yeah, I think the comp is like appropriate. Like, when you kind of look at it and you say, okay, well, you have a couple guys that kind of need to get downhill. Nobody's really stretching the floor per se for Oklahoma City. And we saw it work before. And it's not really about like Shay being better than like that version of LeBron, because I don't think anybody would really even say that, but it's more about the team construct around it. So it's like, we have this blueprint for a thing that Carlisle probably will try. I also don't think he's going to try it in game one, because teams, at least my feel on things is, teams don't like to pre-adjust. Maybe Indiana will, because they're such a big underdog. But I think at the end of the day, like, you do have to try to go out there and win the way that you play and force the other team to do something different. Because,
well, and you don't want to try it like mid-game one down 15 as a panic move, because you only get one time to hit them with it for the first time. Like, you need to use that card. If that's a huge card for you, you need to use it to get a win. Like, you need to use it to finish a game, not to like test it out a little bit. And now they got to see it too.
Exactly. So it's like, if we think that Oklahoma City is in a great spot in game one, a lot of it's going to be because Indiana's probably just doing what we think that they're going to do, what they've done all year. And we like that matchup. I think Indiana's probably the first to blink, maybe shorten the rotations, do some things differently. I also think if it's probably a spot too, where if Indiana shortens the rotations, you can play a little bit more zone, because you're trying to like save your guys a little bit of energy too. And that should in theory be a little bit of an easier way to do it. But I think you're spot on with the difference between having to keep Hartenstein on the floor versus Chet Chet stretches the whole entire thing out. It dramatically changes the geometry of the floor there.
What do you think? What do you think about if we get a lot of zone? What do you think that does to the rebound market?
Well, that was kind of where I was wanted to go with it next too, because I would think, right, that from a Pacers perspective, it almost like has to be, I don't know, like it's tough, because I don't know how they would be spaced around, but you would think that might help Miles Turner. It might help Pascal Siakam, but at the same time, I don't think that you can just continue to play a zone the entire series. And if you can, then we're just way wrong on the series, I think, in general then.
Yeah.
So I think that the zone will work. I think it's going to be like one of those things like, oh, that was cute. Like, that worked for a little bit. Like, you had a run. And maybe that's how Indiana gets their one game. I struggle to see it having enough of a lasting impact to affect our like rebound bets, or so to speak.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I wonder too, it's funny, like, we've talked about a lot of players, we've talked about a lot of X's and O's. A guy that I think has a real chance to be the second best player in the NBA Finals is J-Dub, and we haven't really mentioned him.
Yeah.
And he's like gotten better and better each round of the series or each round of the playoffs so far, and might just be like breaking out as the Scottie Pippen of this team. And I love my J-Dub 4 assists every game bet. $3 or plus 290 at BetMGM. We've been hitting that one series after series. It's not quite the same as like I'm thinking of you see Steph and the Warriors bring the ball up and he gets the 2-man trap and then he gets over to Draymond on the 4-on-3. That's not quite the same, but if you get kind of a couple extra eyes on Shay and the ball comes out of his hands, I don't know that I really mind J-Dub getting like a 4-on-3 going downhill and now he's attacking the extra space, or now he's getting the defense collapse and he's kicking out. Like Indiana doesn't have that option either. And if you're going to put Nesmith on Shay, and that's how you're going to kind of limit him a little bit, maybe at the top of the zone. Cool. Who's left for J-Dub? Because is it Siakam now? Not really, because he's in a zone spot. Maybe J-Dub's not even on that side of the court. And like I think that it's stunning that we're this far in on how much we like OKC for all these other reasons. And right, they also have Jalen Williams, like a budding top 20 player in the NBA that can also do a lot of stuff.
Who's unbelievable. So, and I guess maybe this is the pivot because I think we talked about this. So I'll double check later or we'll come back to it. But when you look at this series for Oklahoma City, we've kind of talked about it enough for Indiana in terms of like, hey, like if it's not Halliburton, then maybe who would it be that could win MVP? But for Oklahoma City, is there a world where Shay is slowed down enough that anybody else can win MVP? My feeling is no, because I think if you slow him down as a scorer, he's still going to be able to get the dimes. And I don't know if anybody else has like J-Dub scoring and like he'd have to average 30. Like I think he would have to average 30. And I don't really even see a world that he does that where Shay isn't scoring like 25 and then having 10 dimes then or something like that.
I think no. I think I'm agreeing with you. It's like even like a low scoring series for Shay is going to be like 24, 25 points a game. And that's like, that's almost 10 points below his 33.5 points per game line that you can bet real dollars.
That line's a little high.
Absurd that's the line. So, okay, 24-25. Well, all right, if he does that, he's cashing our assist leader bet for sure because he's going to be 8, 9, 10 assists. He's going to be getting a ton of assists because the only reason his scoring is that low is because they're forcing the ball out of his hands. Where's J-Dub on it? 30 is a really tough target to see him getting to over a series. Maybe because again, I don't know. J-Dub hasn't shown a scoring ceiling yet. Like, it's not like he's going to put up like a 45 in one game. No. And that's what made his numbers get there. So it's hard to imagine even at 24-25. I don't know if I can see J-Dub even beating that number. He's going to be behind in assists per game also.
Yeah.
And we know how voting goes. We're just like, okay, well, Shay led the team in all three categories. Like, what are we going to do? Even if we think J-Dub was the more important relative player, or you and I think the way we've talked about it, I think you and I might consider voting for Chet just because of the way that he would be so important as a zone buster, as a defender, like spacing the team out. It's not who we think is most important or who most exceeded expectations. There's 9 voters and they're going to see the points and it's going to be Shay. So to me, I'm the king of get cute and try to talk myself into a long shot on this stuff. Shay is, to me, Shay's not only a Thunder Finals bet, just betting Shay MVP. I could more see a world, I think, honestly, where Shay won MVP in a loss in the series than I could see a Thunder winning the finals where Shay's not the MVP, in part because if Shay's not the MVP and the numbers aren't there for him to win it, they probably didn't win the series. Yeah. Like something bad happened to the Thunder, not something good happened to the other guys in that scenario.
Yeah, I think that kind of aligns there. And like if on the flip side, like Jim had the angle about Nesmith being MVP if Indiana is able to win. I don't think it's outrageous given the fact that if he's able to slow down Shay, because that would probably be his assignment, then like that could get you there. Plus like maybe a big game where he's shooting a bunch of threes, something like that. So it's not.
I think that's like the 2014 Kawhi Leonard sort of thing. Not saying that's what Nesmith is, but You defend the star and limit him some. You know, in honor of Kawhi, you hold Shay to only like a 30-point triple-double, which is what I believe LeBron did, something like that series. So you do that, and then you hit up all the corner threes. You know, you have like multiple games where you hit like 5, 6, 7 threes and swing the series. You get like the barrage like we had a couple times last round. Sorry. I could see that. Like, Indiana is absolutely the team that if you like them, they're the team to go ahead and bet a different long shot finals MVP. I don't mind at all if you like the Pacers betting a Neesmith or a Nemhard. We just saw Siakam cash. Siakam was 12-1 at halftime of the deciding game for MVP of that round and was like the leading scorer in the game, closed out and stole it by a vote. Plurality on these is so easy to steal away. I think it's Shay not only will have all the numbers, he also has like the obvious narrative of like somebody, I won't name names, but probably somebody at the company where we write for will write the article of, is Shay the best NBA player in the world now? Because we got to crown him, right? We all want to crown the guy that is the MVP and the West MVP and the Finals MVP and the champion and number one. The urge to crown the new face of the league will be so overwhelming that it's just not going to be somebody else. On Indiana, sure. Crown whoever you want in Indiana.
Yeah, I feel like it's because when you look at Oklahoma City, Shay is the clear A. There's no contest about it. And like, I don't think that Halliburton isn't really, right, like on Indiana, but I do think that there's a little bit of the narrative around Halliburton is interesting, right? Like, he was voted most overrated. And, you know, he's got the front runner in him a little bit, you know, like celebrate when he's up, not when he's down, like real quiet when he's down type of thing. And, you know, I think it's a little bit of like the Tatum of it, right? Like, because Tatum kind of gets the same negative-ish media. Like, he's not given the same grace in the media, right? And I think that it's because like Tatum has flaws in his game, and Halliburton definitely has some as well. Like, Halliburton, I don't think is where Tatum is currently in terms of the completeness of what he is as a player. I think Halliburton probably has maybe has more ceiling. I don't know how much, especially now given the injury to Tatum. Like, this probably is what it is now.
Yeah.
I think Halliburton has more ceiling, but right now there are flaws. Like, and some of those flaws are like when you see these games where he just doesn't show up. And I think that opens the door for sure for somebody else to kind of slide in. Because like, if you looked at the series, I was like, how is Halliburton not the MVP of the Eastern Conference Finals? Like, he had a legendary game with like the 30, 15, 12, and 0 turnovers. Yeah. And Siakam's like fine in every game. Like, he was important, but I was like they didn't win the series because of Pascal Siakam. That's not why
Halliburton
they won.
Had the legendary game, and he got the choke in game one that didn't end up being the game-winning shot, but it's like the moment of the series that will be remembered down the line. Siakam, how did Siakam win? It's very easy, Joe. Points. He won points. That's it. We vote for points. That's the end.
That's true. That is true. Because I was looking at it more in the like, is it something about Halliburton where the media is like we don't need to give it to you. Like, we're not itching to give it to you. And I think that kind of opens the door too, besides the fact that he doesn't always score.
Yeah. Siakam was excellent. Let's be clear. Like, Siakam had a very, very good series, and especially even down the last 2-3 games, I remember consciously noticing, like, man, Siakam, like, I think Siakam's going to struggle in this series because he loves to get in transition, get into space, score where he's got advantages. He was just straight up scoring on dudes last round. Like, he was just getting the ball on the post, going to work, and getting a bucket in a series where Halliburton was being invisible at times. And like, as good as Halliburton was in, I think, game 4 when he had the masterpiece game, I think game 5 is why he didn't win Finals MVP, which is silly because that was a loss anyway. And we normally just only count the wins, which is stupid also. But like, he was so bad and so invisible in the loss while Siakam carried and scored like 39 points or whatever in that game.
Yeah.
That I think that through the perception, I don't even think it through the perception. I think it confirmed many people's perception of, yes, see, Halliburton doesn't take over. And now look, Siakam is taking over and getting the points. And we're always going to, we, not you and I, we the media, we the voters are always going to over-index on points and under-index on gravity and assists and turnovers and all the things that Halliburton is great at. Like, imagine if Steph was trying to win Finals MVP but suddenly just like they took away the 3-point line that time. And we had to just say like, but he would still be so valuable because of his gravity and his shooting and all the things that he does would still be that valuable. They just wouldn't feel as visible without like the one thing that he's definitely doing. And I feel like that's maybe a little bit what was happening, where it's just invisible stuff is not so easy to index on. And why I think this could be open. You could even see a world where, like, in a Pacers win, 9 votes or whatever, I think the public gets a vote too. Maybe it's like 11 or 12. I wouldn't be shocked to see like 5 votes for one guy, 4 for one guy, and then like a 2 and a 1. And it's just like it, to me, a Pacers victory, if we got there, is looking a lot more like 2004 Pistons-y to me, where it's like, this was not because Halliburton went supernova. This was because the starting 5 went supernova, and they found answers. Oklahoma City's offense shrunk in the moment. Shay or J-Dub or both did not show up, but most importantly, everybody on Indiana did. All 5 of them showed up. Turner made the threes. There was the Nembhard game. There was the Neesmith quarter. Like, it's going to take all of that to win the series. And now you got options, I think, for the MVP there. So if you like Indiana, I think if we come on or you come on in 3 weeks and you're telling the story of the shocking upset of the NBA Finals where the Pacers win in 6 or 7 games, how did this happen? I think there's a lot of answers. I think it's all the things is how it had to happen. And that's why, you know, if you like Indiana, you've got a lot of options of how to play it that way.
Yeah, no, I think that absolutely makes sense. Briefly, before we get to pods and recs, for game 1, I know we got a grouper, and we're all going to be on Tyrese Halliburton under 27.5 points plus assists. I think I'm seeing, I can't tell if this is real or not, because sometimes these lines pop and then like they're fake lines, but I'm looking to see if this is a real 28.5 or not on MGM, or if this is a fake 28.5 from where I'm fetching this from. But either way, I do like the spot for, no, it's 27.5. So it's 27.5 on the under. He's only he doesn't hit this against Indiana or against Oklahoma City in the first place. 12 and 21 PA this season. But even looking at the playoffs overall, on this 27.5 number, 50%. So the highs are high and the lows are really low is the things. There is a lot of downward mobility here. Anything you want to add about this 27.5 PA?
I'm actually just playing under on the assists. For some reason, I just feel not so confident about the points. Like, I haven't made up my mind of will Halliburton get the 3-point volume, because we know that they're going to probably want 3-point variance. And I don't know, like, he has games where he takes 2, he has games where he takes 10. And I don't really fear it too much, but I fear it just enough. And I'm confident enough on just the assists that I probably will fade the points, you know. So just giving you another option there. I don't not like the PA. I just prefer the just assist line. We talked about different ways to fade Halliburton assists in particular. At DraftKings and at Bet365, maybe other books, you can bet game leader for assists. We love the series leader. I wish that I had been betting game leader on like the Ant rebounds or the Shay assists the previous round. I only remembered to do those like late in the series a couple times. Shay most assists in game 1 plus 245 at DraftKings is one of my best bets I gave out. I have nothing to add. It's fade Halliburton, it's Shay assists, and frankly, the only thing to add is if it's a Thunder big win, that only helps the bet here, because that's, you know, the Thunder are scoring and Shay's going to be part of it, and the Pacers aren't scoring as much, so that's down for Halliburton there. And, you know, if we lose that one because Nembhard is the guy that did it instead, well, we'll take Nembhard, 150 to 1 assist leader, come on down, baby. Like, we don't, as long as we've got that as kind of like just a little hidden poker chip in our portfolio, that gives us some protection too. But Shay most assists plus 250 range or anything 200 or higher, I think is a fun way to also kind of the escalator on the fade Halliburton assist thing.
Yeah, I like that a lot, because the only other thing that I was looking for in this game and kind of in this series, or at least for game 1, was I want to bet Chet. Honestly, like I liked his PR. It's 25.5, but honestly, the 25.5 seemed like a little high. It felt a little high in a game where I don't know if Hartenstein is going to get excised from the rotation. I think it's a spot. This might be a game 2 play, and just see like where Hartenstein is, see how Chet kind of played. Hopefully, it doesn't bump up too much, but that was another spot that I had
Yeah,
kind
well,
of been
now
looking for.
based on what we're seeing on series leader rebounds, it feels like books are already pricing in the thing we're expecting, which is more Chet, less Hartenstein.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, maybe that line's already a little bit inflated and can't really go up more later. So yeah, I don't necessarily want to go too hard at the Chet Hartenstein angle until I actually see it happen in game
Yep.
one. And if anything, it actually might be that investing in game one Hartenstein over rebounds might be the way to go while it's set up this way until we see it go the other way.
Yeah, because Hartenstein's rebounds in this spot it's at 6.5. And it's interesting
That's
because
so low.
he played 2 games against Indiana this season. One game he only
Without
played
Chet.
Yeah, and one game he only played 14 minutes and he still had 5 boards. The other game he
Yeah.
played
He didn't
35.
play the entire second half in that game, so I'm assuming he was hurt or something.
I think so, yeah. And then the other game, 35 minutes, 13 rebounds. Like, I think he could probably hit the 6.5 anyway. I think it does tie into that 6 rebounds every game bet a little bit better. And it's just like, hey, I don't need to bet this time because I have these series long bets. I do like, it's kind of interesting because I think, and I talked about this last round, but I think we talked about it a little late. With these series bets, right? Like the assists per game, the rebounds per game, whatever. Like, I think sometimes I'm like, I need to go harder on them. Like, I want to bet them. I should bet them a little bit heavier because I don't need to then bet it every game. And I think that the line on a game by game basis is going to be jacked up. Like, I think that I'm going to lose the value completely. Do you try to hit those series bets like harder, or is it like you don't want to overexpose yourself in case you're just wrong on the angle entirely?
Yeah, I mean, I'm never one to be too afraid of overexposing myself because scared money don't make money. And if you have an angle you really love, then you've got to be willing. Like, you only get to win big if you play big. And we've talked about this a lot in the playoffs. If you have an edge, you got to play it because by the next game, if you were right, the edge is now priced into the market and you don't get to profit anymore. So, like, to me, if there is a series leader that you really like, so maybe that's Shay assists here, you're hearing me playing that aggressively in game one right away because right now that edge is available. And right now I'm grabbing the series leader. But if we're right, it's possible we come out of game one and Shay has 8-9 assists and Halliburton has like 5. And suddenly Shay's the guy with the minus number or even odds or something. Well, it's too late to chase now. You've lost the opportunity to bet the series bet, but we're also going to suddenly be adjusting. Now Shay's line for assists is maybe 7.5 in game 2, and maybe Halliburton's down to 8.5. So, like, good example. We know about the Ant rebounds last round. I don't need a victory lap it. Ant rebounds, I bet 1 unit, full unit on the 50-1 before the series. I doubled down at 5-1 after game 1 because he had 9 rebounds the first game. He looked great. He was the leader. Importantly, though, I believe his rebounds line was, I forget what it was in game 1, 5.5.
We bet 6+ at minus 155.
Yeah,
and
but I took the escalator in game 1 right away because I was like, I think this is way off. So I bet 7, 8, 9, double. He didn't quite get double, but just game 1 alone, I profited like 4.5 units right away on Ant. And then we kept talking about it on the podcast all series long. We kept talking about, do we hedge it? How do we play it? Quietly, I kind of wish I'd said it more loudly. I stopped betting it game to game. At like game 3, I switched to the first quarter thing and we hit that one time.
Yeah.
And then after that, I was like, you know what? I don't need to keep investing in it. The line has adjusted up and taken some of the value away. I already got the best of it. I've got the ticket over here. So I think the point being, if there is a series leader idea that you like, do bet it in game 1 because that same reason you like it for the series should be priced in. Like, if we're fading Halliburton for series leader, we should be betting his under in game 1 on assists. Yeah. If we like Shay rebounds, we should be betting his over in game 1 on rebounds. And yeah, you're going to get them both wrong. If you're wrong, welcome to betting. You get stuff wrong
is what
sometimes.
It is.
Like, if you don't want to overexpose, split your bet in half and then lose half and half that way or something. But I think you want to be aggressive in any market, in any betting. If you have an edge and you're confident in the edge, or if your edge is big, and in both cases, I think that's what you're looking at on series bets. You should be betting your big or aggressive edge aggressively early. So I think that is the way to play those. Circling back just real quick, just to throw it out there, kind of thinking on the spot. We talked about the Hartenstein thing and maybe even a Hartenstein over in game 1. Just a thought here. At DraftKings, game leader parlay, Shay points. Shay points is the free space.
Yeah.
Assists, we already gave that out. Hartenstein rebounds. Just for game one, Hartenstein rebounds, it's 15-1. You get three of them together just for game one. I don't mind that.
That's not crazy, especially considering that's kind of where we're going in terms of what we thought might happen in that game. And I think that Hartenstein's price for the rebounds, it's a little bit like hazy right now because they kind of have to make it like a decent number. Like I'm seeing 3-1 for him to be the rebounds leader. And like maybe this is the angle where we're like, hey, like we think he's going to play enough in game one, especially if Oklahoma City does kind of get out to a decent lead. You know, maybe they just run a little bit more traditional rotation, rest Chet a little bit more too.
How many minutes would I have to tell you that Hartenstein played in game one for you to think, oh, he's the favorite to lead the game in rebounds?
25.
Yeah, 25 was my number too. And 25 is a normal game. Like anything below 25 is we immediately decided we did not want Hartenstein on the court as much this series.
Yeah.
So if you think that, and like Dags has not been the first mover a lot of the time. So I think in game one, to think Hartenstein might act, and again, I don't even know if you need 10 rebounds to lead the game in rebounds in this series. You might do it with like 8 or 9. Hartenstein can do that in 20 minutes, even if we're right about him going low on the minutes. So I think just for a game or two, until the thing happens we think is going to happen, that could be kind of an interesting counterplay, especially because I think it's counter to the book pricing right now. That's already pricing Hartenstein away from this, where it's like, well, he's by far the best rebounder they can have. If he gets any minutes, he's in the range for this.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's a fun little sprinkle for game one to kind of tie in all the angles that we were talking about. So, all right, let's we'll get everybody out of here. I think we're both on Oklahoma City in not a lot of games. But what we got to hit you obviously with pods and recs.
Yeah, so let me give you a couple of things I'm watching. I can't really, this can't be like just my go-to rec, but we had a little break. We recorded a podcast, took a little break. I had a snack and then came on to do this one. Celebrity Wheel of Fortune. I'm just going to say, I'm trying to think who was on this episode. There was an actress I didn't know, Justin Long, an actor I knew. And then what do you know? Cameron Brink playing on Celebrity Wheel of Fortune. So
awesome.
To Joe Dellera, that's my recommendation for you. To everybody else, Pods and Recs, Survivor, Season 50, coming next spring, is all the legends, and then not all the legends, because they brought back like half of all the new people. But let me give you a couple seasons to watch. This is the time. Watch old Survivor seasons. That's the recommendation, because you can catch up on some of the classic old players who we get to see again next spring. So I'm rewatching right now with my girlfriend Katrina. We're watching season 18, which is in Tocantins, Brazil. It features Coach, the beginning of if you watched Survivor recently, you like Q. Coach was Q before Q. You get to kind of meet him and all the crazy with Coach. I'm also watching with Katrina and her friends and our friends. We are watching season 37, David versus Goliath. One of my favorite seasons ever. There are 3 players, Christian, Angelina, and Mike, as in Mike White, the White Lotus guy. Those 3 from that season. Themes are always helpful in Survivor, and David versus Goliath is like the most obvious theme of underdog versus, I mean, we're bettors. We understand what David and Goliath are doing over here. So very fun season. I think it's good if you've enjoyed the occasional Survivor talk, being able to use the summer to binge through a couple old Survivor seasons is a good way to go. So I'm recommending old Survivor seasons, but especially 18 Tocantins and 37 David versus Goliath are my 2 season recommendations.
I mean, honestly, like with the amount of time that we're about to start having, even now already, honestly, with the finals, like we did the research, it's just watch the games and adjust off of that. There's definitely going to be some time for that.
You're going to have some time the 3rd week of June too, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I think so. My recommendation for everybody is I'm going to recommend, I'd never seen them before. I got protein pretzels and they were like in a bag. They're like not hard. Well, they're hard pretzels, but like it was like a snack size bag. And there were a couple, then I Googled it and then there's like a couple different variations of these, like different companies. But I was a little surprised because I don't love to eat that type of thing. Like I'd rather just eat like a piece of chicken. But at the same time, sometimes like you're looking for like a snack, you're like, I need something, whatever. Protein pretzels were something they were just not even in like the realm of my thought for what could be made into protein, and they were. So a little bit better, I think, than the chips, because like some of the Quest chips, they had a weird texture. I feel like pretzels can have that like dry kind of like feel to them, and it's okay if they're protein like that, because that's kind of more or less what a pretzel you would expect it to be. Well, I'm gonna recommend protein pretzels. Put your mind into that pretzel and call it a day. Brandon, this was a lot of fun. Obviously, always, love to get you on and do some of these previews. It's fun to kind of bounce some of these ideas off of each other. So hopefully we get just a long enough series, but if it isn't, it isn't.
Hey, invite me back for next Pods and Recs, where I will recommend to you a piece of chicken.
It'll be perfect. Maybe grilled. So, guys, Brandon, appreciate having you on, and we are going to enjoy these NBA finals. I think based on the schedule, we will definitely have one more episode, at least one more episode of the show, because these games are spaced out so much. So we'll have a Game 3 preview that'll drop the day of Game 3, and then honestly, I don't think we're gonna have another episode until after the finals. So we will be back. We will adjust, and we will continue to catch that.